It was the way the wind moved the curtains that night, soft, careless, like nothing in the world had changed, that broke me the most. My name is Ellison. I had just come back from the grocery store, arms full of things she'd asked for earlier that day. Almond creamer, sea salt crackers, that lavender shampoo she liked but always pretended was too expensive. There was a warmth in me as I pulled into the driveway. Calm certainty. We had been through a rough patch lately. Sure, long silences, distracted smiles, her phone always face down. But I told myself it was just life being life. Stress, work, one of those invisible tides couples quietly wait out. But when I walked inside, the apartment felt hollow. Not empty, just absent in a way that made the air feel wrong. I called her name once. No answer. I noticed her purse was gone, and her shoes, the tan ones she only wore when she wanted to look effortlessly pretty. My first thought wasn't panic. It was hope that she had gone to meet a friend, that maybe she was trying to reconnect with herself and, by extension, with us. I smiled at the thought, and then I saw the message on the counter. It wasn't a letter, nothing dramatic, just a folded napkin from our kitchen drawer with a few words scribbled in blue pen. Out with Mara. Be back late. Don't wait up. That sentence sat in my chest like a stone. Mara, her coworker, the one she always mentioned when she needed a reason to disappear. The one I'd never met. I stood there in the kitchen staring at that napkin, feeling like someone had taken a layer of color out of the world. Not all of it, just enough to make everything feel off. I set the groceries down gently. My hands were steady, but inside I was shrinking. Slowly, quietly. It wasn't suspicion that moved me toward her laptop. It was instinct. I didn't want to dig. I didn't want to be that person. But something in me needed to touch the truth, even if it hurt. She hadn't logged out. There it was, her messages. Not to Mara, to Travis. Bar shift speech balloon. Do you ever feel your chest go completely numb? Like your ribs are trying to hold your heart still so it won't fall apart? Can't wait to see you tonight. Same spot. Don't forget the drink I like. Wearing the dress you love. Face blowing a kiss. That was the moment I sat down on the floor. Not out of shock. Not rage, just quiet understanding. Like I was finally hearing a conversation that had been happening behind glass for months. And now the glass was gone. I didn't cry. I didn't even blink. I just sat there and let the truth settle in the room. Then I walked to the bedroom, opened the drawer, and took out the ring box. I stared at it for a long time, not because I was unsure of what to do, but because, strangely, I still loved her. But love, I realized, isn't supposed to feel like this. So I put the ring in my coat pocket. I grabbed my keys, and I left. Not to chase her, not to argue, but to return something that never truly belonged to her anymore. What I did next, no one could have predicted, not even me. I didn't drive fast. I didn't even know exactly where I was going at first. I just kept the ring in my jacket pocket and let the road pull me forward. I remember the way the city looked that night, like it was holding its breath. The traffic lights blinked in patterns I suddenly noticed for the first time. Storefronts glowed with artificial warmth. Couples passed by on sidewalks, laughing, oblivious. And there I was, one hand on the steering wheel, the other resting over the small box like it was a wounded part of me I hadn't realized was bleeding. I wasn't going to the bar to confront her, not to create a scene, not to shout her name over clinking glasses and cheap music. I wasn't going to beg or plead or ask why. I was going to do the only thing left that still felt like it belonged to me. And strangely, it felt peaceful. There was no racing heart, no fury, no trembling hands. Just a stillness. Like when you finally understand the ending of a book you didn't realize you'd been reading wrong. I stopped at a corner about a block away from the bar. I could already hear the echo of voices spilling into the night. It was the kind of place where nobody asked questions, where everything smelled like spilled beer and worn-out stories. I stayed in the car for a while, watching people come and go. One of them was her, Odessa, in a navy blue dress, walking like she had no weight on her shoulders. She wasn't with Mara. She was with him, a tall guy with that easy kind of confidence I never really learned to have. He leaned in close to her, said something that made her laugh, that laugh I used to wait for. She touched his arm the way she used to touch mine when she didn't want to let go. It didn't crush me. It just confirmed everything I needed to know. I waited until they disappeared inside, then stepped out of the car, walked around to the back entrance of the bar, and quietly slid the small ring box through the mail slot of the staff door. That was it. No notes, no dramatic send-off, just the quiet click of metal against metal as the ring left my life without ceremony. She'd find it eventually. Maybe later that night, maybe the next morning, maybe not until someone else handed it to her and said, "This came for you," but she'd know what it meant. She'd know I'd seen everything, understood everything, and that I chose not to fight. Because honestly, there was nothing left to fight for. Walking back to the car felt like the longest part. Not because of distance, but because with every step, I felt pieces of myself sliding off like old skin. The man who planned our wedding. The man who saved screenshots of the first time she said, "I love you." The man who thought commitment meant something to her. All of it fading quietly. When I got back into the driver's seat, I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat there and listened to the pulse of the city. I thought about all the things I wanted to say to her. Not accusations, just truths. Like how I noticed she stopped reaching for my hand in public 3 months ago. How she started humming less in the kitchen. How she began complimenting strangers more than me. These small, almost invisible warnings I kept brushing aside because I believed in her more than I believed in patterns. I didn't blame her. I didn't even hate her. But I did finally see her, and it wasn't who I thought I was going to grow old with. I drove home slower than before. Every red light felt like a moment to reflect. I passed the building where we first kissed, the bakery where we'd get muffins on Sundays, the street where she once told me, "I feel safe with you." I used to hold on to those memories like they meant everything. Now they felt like borrowed time. When I finally walked through the front door, the apartment didn't feel as hollow as before. Felt different. Like something was missing, yes, but also like space had been made for something else. Something that didn't need lies to breathe. I poured myself a glass of water. No alcohol. I wanted to feel every inch of the decision I had just made. I stood by the window and looked out at the night, not to wait for her return, but to prepare for the version of myself that would come next. The next morning, I would wake up and not be someone's fiancé, but I would also not be someone's fool. And for the first time in a long time, that felt like freedom. I didn't pack a single bag. Not because I was trying to make a statement, not because I was planning to come back, but because I didn't know what belonged to me anymore. When trust breaks in a place where two people live, the walls start feeling rented, even if the lease has both names on it. So, I left everything exactly where it was. Toothbrush, shoes, my college sweatshirt that she always stole on cold mornings. Even the half-empty bottle of cologne I wore the night I proposed. I looked at it before leaving and felt like I was staring at a version of myself that no longer existed. The funny part? There was no shouting, no crying, no slamming doors. Just a strange kind of stillness, like the world paused for a breath before continuing without me. I drove for hours that night, not toward anyone or anything in particular. I ignored the urge to call someone. I didn't need advice. I didn't need comfort. What I needed was space. And not the dramatic kind you ask for during an argument, but real, empty, uncurated space. A gas station bathroom felt more honest than the apartment I had just walked out of. I ended up in a small town about 2 hours away. It had a 24-hour diner and a motel that hadn't updated its carpet since the 80s. I checked in using my middle name, not because I was hiding, but because Ellison Grant suddenly felt like someone I used to be. The room was nothing special. Beige walls, a faint smell of pine cleaner, a buzzing light in the bathroom that blinked just often enough to annoy me but not enough to fix. I dropped onto the bed without even taking off my jacket. I stared at the ceiling for what felt like a full hour. I wasn't sad. I wasn't numb. I wasn't anything. I was between versions of myself, still shaped like a man in love but hollowed out by truths I couldn't unsee. I kept replaying the way she laughed with him, not because I was jealous, but because it looked so natural, so easy, like she'd done it 100 times. Maybe she had. Maybe I had just been the in-between, the placeholder for the version of her that still wanted to explore, to feel new again. And that was the part that hurt most. Not that she cheated, but that I became ordinary to her. When the sun finally started bleeding through the curtains, I got up and took the longest shower of my life. Not to clean off anything physical, but to stand still in a place where no one expected anything from me. Not love, not forgiveness, not understanding. Just steam and water and silence. I didn't look in the mirror afterward, not because I couldn't face myself, but because I wasn't ready to see who I'd become without her. I ordered black coffee and dry toast from the diner across the street. The waitress didn't ask questions. I think she knew the look. The quiet man who left too early and looked like he'd forgotten how to sleep. She gave me extra napkins without saying a word. That felt like more care than I'd felt in weeks. And there, in that cracked vinyl booth, I finally reached for my phone. Dozens of messages, all from her. Where are you? I found the ring. Can we talk? Please don't do this like a stranger. You're overreacting. Call me. I deserve that much. That last one lingered. Deserve. The word tasted bitter, like she believed pain was a transaction, that she'd earned the right to explain a betrayal like it was a scheduling conflict. I turned the phone off, not out of anger, but because if I gave her space to speak, I knew I'd start shrinking again. I knew I'd start rationalizing just to feel close to her one more time. No, not this time. Not when I had finally learned the difference between fighting for someone and bleeding for someone who handed you the knife. And so I sat there, in a borrowed booth in a town I couldn't name, eating food I didn't finish, staring out a foggy window into a morning that didn't belong to us anymore. The past was behind me, but the hardest part was yet to come. She called my brother. That's when I knew she wasn't confused. She was cornered. See, when someone betrays you, they don't always panic the moment you walk away. Sometimes the fear comes later, when they realize you're not chasing them, when they realize their control was never real, just borrowed. I didn't answer her calls. Not the first 3, not the 7th. I wasn't avoiding a fight. I was done offering a platform to someone who had already spoken clearly with her actions. But when she reached out to Nolan, my older brother, the one who had known her almost as long as I had, I understood something. She wasn't trying to explain, she was trying to reset the story. He met me outside the motel that afternoon. No warning, just a knock. Then his voice. She's worried and confused. Confused. I hate that word now. It makes it sound like infidelity is a paperwork error. We walked to the bench behind the diner. He had 2 coffees with him. I didn't ask for one. I didn't thank him. I just listened. She said it wasn't serious, Nolan began. That it happened a few times. She says she panicked after she found the ring. Thought you were going to overreact and disappear. I'm not saying she's right, Elle. I'm just saying she's not pretending like it didn't happen. I didn't disappear, I replied calmly. I left. That's not the same. He nodded, but I saw it in his eyes. That subtle tilt of sympathy, that uncomfortable space between trying to support me and trying not to fully condemn her. People get weird when a relationship ends quietly. No yelling, no public shaming, just facts. And the fact was, she wanted me to play a role in a drama she was now directing. I think you should talk to her, he added. No, I said. I think I already have. That was the moment he understood I wasn't coming back. Later that evening, I received a text. Not from her, from Mara. Yes, the mythical coworker, the one who was always in every excuse but never in a single photo or call history. Ellison, I thought you deserved to know. I wasn't with her that night. I haven't seen her in 2 months. She's not who I thought she was. I'm sorry. That message didn't break me. It validated me. And still, I didn't respond. Not to Mara, not to Odessa, not to anyone. Not because I was cold, but because I was done participating in a narrative where I was the last to know. That night, I didn't look out of a window or clutch a photo or ask the stars for answers. I didn't replay our memories or doubt my decision or write a letter I'd never send. I did something completely ordinary. I went to a laundromat, washed my hoodie, folded my clothes, bought a grape soda from the vending machine, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel owned by what she did. I wasn't trying to heal. I wasn't trying to prove I'd moved on. I was simply living again. and it felt like a quiet revolution. There's this broken chair in my apartment, left over from a failed attempt to be handy during our first year together. One of the legs is slightly off balance, not enough to collapse, just enough to make you feel like you shouldn't trust it. I kept meaning to fix it. She kept saying she'd just throw it out. We never agreed on it, and somehow, after everything that's happened, it's still here. That's what I sat in when I got back home. Yes, I went back. Not to return to her. She wasn't there. She hadn't been back since the night I returned the ring. Her things were still where she left them. A half-done crossword on the kitchen table, her perfume on the dresser, the shoes by the door I used to trip over. Everything intact, untouched, like a museum exhibit of our paused life. I didn't touch anything. I just sat in that stupid, wobbly chair and stared at the folded CVS receipt still pinned to our fridge. The one from the night she told me she loved me for the first time. We'd run in to buy gum. She kissed me in the parking lot because she said the fluorescent light made my eyes look like storm clouds. We both laughed when the receipt came out about 3 feet long for 1 pack of gum. Kept it. She laughed harder and then said it. I love you, you sentimental idiot. That receipt is still there. Slightly yellowed, corners curling. I didn't cry when I saw it. I didn't feel nostalgic. What I felt was interested. Not in her, but in me. Who I was in that moment, why I believed it all. Not because she said it convincingly, but because I wanted it to be true so badly that I missed everything else. She texted me again that night. Not asking to talk. Just, I think you're being dramatic, but I get it. I need space too. That was the most honest thing she'd said in weeks. She needed space, the kind you create by walking away before the other person notices you're not standing next to them anymore. The kind where you go out for air and just never come back the same. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because silence, for once, didn't feel like surrender. Felt like accuracy. Later that evening, I went into our shared Amazon account and removed my name. Canceled the shared calendar. I unsubscribed from the streaming service we used to accidentally binge together. I deleted the grocery list we built together every week, item by item, argument by argument. I left the apartment cleaner than it had been in months, not to impress her, but because I needed to know I could restore order without asking someone else to help me do it. I didn't burn anything. I didn't throw away her stuff. I didn't need to punish her. That would have required energy I no longer wanted to spend. It was over, and I was just tired of pretending like there was a next step. I fell asleep on the couch, not from sadness, just because I didn't feel like making the bed anymore. When I woke up, it was still dark. The air smelled like lavender and leftover chicken from a meal I didn't finish. I stood in the hallway for a long time, looking at the closed door to our bedroom. I didn't open it. Some rooms are better left untouched, at least until you've decided what you're trying to find inside them. The first thing I noticed was how fast the milk expired. When 2 people live together, grocery items tend to vanish in patterns. Milk runs out every 4 days. Bananas go brown on schedule. The peanut butter jar gets scraped with increasing aggression near the bottom. But in the last 2 weeks, I started throwing things out more than I used to. I wasn't eating less. I just had no idea how much she had consumed until she wasn't here. That's how it began. Not with crying, but with inventory. The coffee filters lasted longer. No hair in the drain. The laundry slowed to 1/3 of what it used to be. The bathroom mirror stayed clean. I didn't find foundation prints on my towels. The throw blanket on the couch never moved. I stopped waking up in the middle of the night to turn off lights she always forgot to switch off. The apartment adjusted faster than I did. I didn't tell anyone that we'd split, not really. I just stopped bringing her up in conversation. My coworkers noticed I stopped smiling when I looked at my phone. My mom asked if we were still doing Thanksgiving together this year. I told her we'd talk about it later. There was nothing dramatic. No blow-up, no screaming match or ultimatums, just silence. Long, factual, unquestioning silence. I ran into her cousin at the bank. He asked how Odessa was. I told him she was busy these days. That wasn't a lie. She was busy, just not with me. She texted me 3 days ago. Not a long message, no request for closure, no fake apology, just a single question. Did you cancel the florist? That was it. No, how are you? No, I'm sorry. No acknowledgement of the space that had grown so wide we didn't even remember how to refer to each other. I didn't reply. I let the florist call her instead. Later that night, I stood in our kitchen, no, my kitchen now, and realized something strange. The place hadn't just changed. It had stopped reflecting who we were. It was neutral now, like a stage after the play ends, like the last page of a notebook someone stopped writing in mid-sentence. The mug with the chipped handle, still there. Her book with the bookmark she never moved past page 142. Still there. The stack of magazines addressed to both of us, Odessa and Ellison, in neat print. I threw them out. But the thing that stood out most? The quiet had a personality now. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't heavy. It was just different, like a roommate who doesn't talk but always shows up on time. She hasn't come back. She probably won't. But she'll remember the moment the ring appeared at the back door of the bar. The moment she realized someone didn't yell or demand answers or cry in the street. Someone simply understood and left. That's the part I'm most proud of. That I walked away not because I was weak, but because I was awake. She used to write her name on things. Sticky notes, receipts, the corner of the dry erase board on the fridge. Odessa. Not cursive, sharp angles like she was trying to remind the world she had shape. Now it's fading everywhere. I walked into the pharmacy 2 blocks down. The one she always insisted was cleaner than the chain stores. The woman at the register asked if we were still picking up prescriptions together. I said no. She didn't ask why. That's how most people react. They feel it. They don't say it. Her name used to appear in my phone at least 10 times a day. Now it's buried somewhere in the call log, far beneath my last dentist appointment and a call from the bank I forgot to answer. I haven't deleted her number. That would require intention. This isn't that. This is erosion. Our neighbor, the one from across the hall with the terrier who always barked at her perfume, saw me taking out the trash. She smiled with a pause. She didn't say her name, just said, "You okay?" I said, "Yes." I wasn't lying, not really. At the grocery store, her favorite salad dressing was on sale. I walked past it without stopping. Didn't even flinch. That surprised me more than anything. I passed the park where we once argued over who forgot the picnic blanket. It used to feel like a story worth retelling. Now it's just a patch of grass I ignore at red lights. I logged out of our shared cloud calendar. She emailed me asking why. The subject line was, "I was going to handle that." That's all it said. No greeting, no context, just a mild complaint, like I'd moved a coffee mug from the wrong cabinet. I didn't answer because I don't want to win an argument over an expired life. She hasn't called, and the longer it stays that way, the more I realize. She expected me to hold the door open, even after she walked through it with someone else. Maybe not for reconciliation, maybe just for the echo. But echoes need walls, and all I've been doing is tearing them down. One small, quiet decision at a time. I woke up early, before the sun got serious. No dream, no phone vibration. Just that rare kind of silence you notice not because it's heavy, but because nothing feels wrong inside it. I stretched, turned off the alarm I didn't need, and made a single cup of coffee. Not for 2, just 1. There was no trace of her anymore. Not in the apartment, not in my head, not in the rhythm of the day. She became something like a chapter one didn't skip but also didn't reread. I opened the window, not metaphorically, literally. I let the air in. It was cool and indifferent. The sky looked undecided. I liked that. It matched my mood. Not chasing meaning, just noticing. I went for a walk. No destination. I watched a dog try to carry a stick twice its size down a narrow sidewalk. I watched 2 old men argue about lawn care outside a hardware store. I laughed quietly to myself and didn't think about whether she would have found that funny. 2. At the cafe, the barista asked if I wanted the usual. I hesitated. I realized she was talking about my usual, not ours. That moment felt bigger than it should have, not because of what I ordered, but because I no longer felt like a leftover from something broken. I sat by the window with my coffee and watched people walk by. I didn't envy them. I didn't imagine what their relationships were like. I just let them be people I'd never meet. That felt freeing. Not bitter, just light. A little girl walked past wearing glittery shoes and a paper crown. Her dad carried a balloon and a tired smile. I smiled back, not because I missed something, but because I knew I'd be okay building something new in a different time, with a different person, or maybe just with myself. It took me a long time to reach this point. Not to forgive her, not to understand her, but to stop holding space for someone who no longer showed up. And when I stood up to leave, I didn't glance back at the table, didn't check my phone, didn't second-guess the path. I just walked forward. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like everything ahead of me actually belonged to me.